I sold our family estate to a highway developer this morning, and by the time you and my sister finish your champagne, the bulldozers will be in the driveway, I said, my voice tightening as I tossed the legal papers onto the silk duvet. You both called me a useless trophy wife for 10 years, so I decided to show you exactly how much this useless woman is worth. The silence in the master bedroom of our Connecticut home was heavy. My husband, Marcus, didn't move. He sat on the edge of the bed, his expensive silk shirt half unbuttoned. For a decade, Marcus was the top shark at his law firm. He always told me to stay home and let him handle the real world. Elena, the younger sister I had raised since our parents died, stood there wrapping a robe around herself. She had been living in our guest house for 6 months, claiming she was depressed. I guess she found a very specific way to cheer herself up. Now, here is the question for all of you. If you found out the two people you loved most were draining your bank account while laughing at you, would you walk away quietly, or would you burn the house down while they were still inside? Most people say they'd take the high road, but the high road doesn't pay the bills. I chose the low road, and it's paved with legal notices. Elena stepped toward me, her face pale. Abby, you can't sell this place. It's our legacy. I looked at her and felt nothing. It was my legacy, Elena. Dad left it to me because he knew you'd spend the value of the land on shoes. And Marcus? He signed a post-nuptial agreement 3 years ago when he wanted me to bail out his firm. He was so busy calling me clueless that he didn't even read the clause about asset liquidation in the event of infidelity. Marcus finally stood up. You're bluffing. You don't even know how to pay a water bill. He reached for the papers, his hand shaking. I watched him realize the signature was notarized. Where did you get the money for a lawyer, Abby? I track every cent in your checking account. I leaned against the doorframe. That's the first secret, Marcus. Every time you gave me allowance, I overcharged the cards and took the cash back. I've been building a war chest in a private account for years. I wasn't just buying groceries, I was buying my freedom. Actually, I can sell it. Remember those tax documents you had me sign last year? You were so hungover you didn't notice you were signing a quitclaim deed, transferring your half of the property to me as a gift. You told me to just sign it and stop talking, so I did. The room felt smaller. Marcus was trapped in a house that was no longer his. I checked my watch. The moving trucks will be here in 10 minutes. Anything left belongs to the developer. That includes your jewelry, Elena. I have the receipts. They're mine now. Marcus grabbed his phone, his face turning red. I'll tie this up in court for years. I smiled. Go ahead. But before you do, check the firm's server. I sent an anonymous tip to the district attorney about the consulting fees you've been paying to a shell company owned by my sister. It looks a lot like money laundering. Elena gasped. Marcus dropped his phone. He realized I hadn't just discovered the affair. I had been documenting it for over a year. Suddenly, the front door crashed open, but it wasn't the movers. 3 men in dark suits walked into the foyer. One of them had a scar running through his eyebrow. We're looking for Marcus, he said. He has something that belongs to our employer. I pointed toward the garden. He went out the back. He has a silver Porsche in the garage. He also has a briefcase, I told the man. I believe whatever you're looking for is inside it. The men moved with a terrifying efficiency. Elena grabbed my arm. How could you? You just gave him a death sentence. I shoved her off. He gave himself one when he started stealing from people who don't use lawyers. Marcus has been laundering money for a cartel for years, Elena. That's why he needed a useless wife who didn't ask questions. He used our household accounts as a clearinghouse. The second secret hit her. The luxury life was built on blood. I didn't know, she whispered. I laughed. You were too busy enjoying the bags he bought you. But since you're his consultant, your name is on the paper trail. They're coming for you next. Suddenly, a motorcycle engine roared. Marcus had used the Porsche as a decoy. He was weaving through the woods. He's gone, Elena breathed. I shook my head. I disabled the fuel pump on his private plane an hour ago. He's going to get to the hangar and realize he's trapped. Elena stared at me. You planned all of this? I sat on the edge of the bed. I knew he was stealing from someone powerful. I just had to wait for him to run. Now you're going to call the police and tell them everything. If you do, I might keep you out of jail. Elena picked up the phone. As she started dialing, the power in the house cut out. The electronic locks engaged with a heavy click. The third secret was the most dangerous. Marcus hadn't left. He had let me steal the money because he needed someone to hold it while he went underground. I heard the sound of the heavy front door clicking shut. I walked to the door and tried the handle. It was locked from the outside. Abby, Elena whispered, there's someone in the hallway. I saw a shadow under the door. It was perfectly still. Marcus, open this door, I shouted, slamming my shoulder against the wood. There was no answer, just the sound of heavy, rhythmic breathing on the other side. Elena was huddled in the corner, her fingers digging into the silk of her robe. He's going to kill us, she whimpered. He's lost everything, and he's going to take us with him. I forced myself to breathe through the rising panic. No, he's not. Marcus is a coward. He doesn't kill people. He manages them. He's waiting for something. Abby. Marcus's voice finally came through the wood. He sounded calm, almost bored. You were so close. You really did a great job with the post-nup. I was impressed, truly. I leaned my forehead against the door. What do you want, Marcus? He chuckled, a dry, hollow sound. Open the laptop and transfer the funds back to the original account. The people downstairs aren't FBI. They're the men I work for. If they find the money in your name, you go to prison for laundering. I'll just tell them I was under duress. You forged my signature for years, I yelled. Marcus laughed again. The proof is in the safe in the basement, Abby. The same basement that is currently filling with gas because I broke the line 5 minutes ago. In 10 minutes, this legacy estate is going to have a very tragic accident. The police will find a scorned wife and her cheating sister who couldn't handle the shame, and I'll be long gone with the money you so kindly consolidated for me. The air in the room felt heavy, and a faint, sweet smell began to seep through the vents. My lungs felt tight. Elena scrambled to her feet, her eyes darted toward the laptop. Abby, just give it to him. It's just money. We're going to die in here. I grabbed her wrist, stopping her. If you give it to him, we're dead anyway. Do you think he's going to let us walk out and tell the police he tried to blow up the house? He needs us to be the accidental victims. The fourth secret was a knife to the heart. Marcus had planned this theft. He hadn't been blindsided by my legal moves. He had been waiting for them. He needed me to feel powerful, so I would pull all the hidden funds into one visible account where he could grab them easily in one move. I had been the useless wife one last time, acting as his unintended courier. I won't do it, I said, my voice shaking. I'd rather lose everything than give you another cent. Marcus sighed. Always so dramatic. Elena, what about you? Do you want to die for Abby's ego? I know you have the secondary authorization code. I gave it to you months ago, remember? When we were planning our new life? I spun around to look at my sister. Her hand was already on her phone. Elena, you don't dare, I whispered. He's using you. I don't want to die, Abby, Elena cried, her thumbs flying across the screen. He's right. If the money stays with you, we're the ones who go down. At least this way we have a chance. She let out a sharp sob as she hit the final button. It's done. I sent the authorization. Marcus, the money is moving. Now open the door. There was a long silence, the kind that makes your ears ring. Then the heavy click of the electronic lock. The door swung open, and Marcus stood there. He wasn't wearing his suit jacket anymore, and he held a heavy briefcase in one hand and a handgun in the other. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at his watch. Thank you, Elena. You were always the easier one to manage. He stepped into the room, the smell of gas following him like a shadow. He looked at me, and smirked. The gas is real, by the way. I'd suggest you use the window. It's a long drop, but it's better than the alternative. He turned to walk away, his eyes fixed on the hallway. He was already mentally on that plane, leaving the wreckage of our lives behind. "Wait," I said, my voice go cold and flat. "The money, it didn't go to your account, did it?" Marcus stopped dead. He slowly turned around, his brow furrowed. "What are you talking about?" I looked at Alina. She wasn't crying anymore. She stood up slowly, smoothing her silk robe, a strange, triumphant look on her face. "The authorization code Marcus gave me wasn't for his account," she said steadily. "It was for mine." The fifth secret was the ultimate betrayal. My sister hadn't just been sleeping with my husband. She had been planning to double-cross both of us from the start. "I've been skimming from you, Marcus, for months. Every time you had me consult on a wire transfer, I took a little extra. And just now, I redirected Abby's entire trust into a private account in the Caymans that only I can access. You two can fight over the burning house. I'm leaving." Marcus spun around in a pure, blinding rage. "You what?" He raised the gun, pointing it directly at Elena's chest. Her face went pale, but she didn't move. "You shoot me, you never get the password," she hissed. "And do you hear that? Those aren't your friends with the black SUV. That's the sound of the actual police. I called them 5 minutes ago while you were busy gloating at the door. I told them there was a hostage situation." Marcus's hand shook. He looked at Elena, then at me, then at the door. He was trapped between a sister-in-law who had robbed him and a wife who had outsmarted him, all while the house was seconds away from turning into a fireball. The sirens were screaming in the driveway, now blue and red lights flashing against the bedroom walls. "Give me the drive, Elena," Marcus growled. "I mean it." Marcus hesitated, his eyes darting between the gun in his hand and the flashing police lights reflecting off the bedroom walls. In that split second of indecision, I saw my only opening. I grabbed the heavy glass vase from the nightstand, the one Marcus bought me for our 10th anniversary, and swung it with every ounce of rage I had suppressed for a decade. It shattered against the back of his head with a sickening thud. Marcus crumpled to the floor, the gun skittering across the hardwood and sliding under the bed. Elena lunged for the weapon, but I was faster. I shoved her back, my hands trembling. "Don't even think about it," I hissed. The smell of gas was now so thick, it felt like a physical weight on my chest. A sweet, deadly fog filling the room. The electronic locks on the doors were dead, and the handle wouldn't budge. "The window, now!" I coughed, my lungs burning. I grabbed a heavy metal desk lamp and hurled it through the glass. The pane shattered, and the cold Connecticut morning air rushed in, giving us a second of clarity. "Go!" I yelled at Alina. She didn't look back. She scrambled over the sill and dropped onto the library's shingled roof below. I looked down at Marcus. He was groaning, clutching his head, his eyes glassy. I had every reason to leave him there. He'd stolen my youth, my trust, and my home. But I wouldn't let him have the easy way out. I wouldn't let him die a victim of a tragic accident. I wanted him to stand in a courtroom and watch as his reputation was shredded in front of the world. I hauled him toward the window, dragging his dead weight until I could shove him through. He tumbled onto the roof next to Elena, just as a massive whoosh echoed from the foyer below. The house didn't just catch fire, it inhaled. A wall of orange flame licked the hallway door as I scrambled out onto the roof. We sat there, 3 broken shadows against a backdrop of fire and smoke. The police and fire trucks were swarming the driveway now. Within minutes, ladders were up. They brought us down one by one, our faces covered in soot, our lungs heavy with the taste of burnt legacy. As soon as my feet hit the grass, a female officer wrapped a heavy wool blanket around my shoulders. "Are you okay, ma'am? Can you breathe?" she asked. I couldn't speak. I just watched Marcus and Elena. They were sitting on the bumper of an ambulance, already arguing, their voices rising over the sound of the sirens. They looked small. They looked pathetic. The detective, a man with tired eyes and a notebook, approached me. "Mrs. Miller, we need to get a statement. Your husband says there was a gas leak and a home invasion." I looked at Marcus, who was nodding vigorously at another officer, trying to play the traumatized victim. I reached into the pocket of my charred robe and pulled out a small, rusty iron key. "Officer," I said, my voice cracking but steady, "before you talk to them, you need to go to the old stone well at the back of the property. There's a waterproof safe hidden 5 feet down. It doesn't contain jewelry. It contains the real ledgers. Not the ones Marcus forged for his firm and not the ones Elena used to skim his accounts. The 6th secret was the one that finally broke them. I hadn't been consolidating the money for them to steal. I had been a confidential informant for the FBI for over 18 months. I knew about the cartel connections before Marcus even realized I was suspicious. The transfer Elena made wasn't to a private Cayman account. It was a redirected wire into a government-monitored escrow. Every cent they thought they were fighting over was already under federal seal. Marcus saw the key in my hand, and his face went from pale to a ghostly white. He realized then that I was never the trophy wife. I was the architect of his ruin. I had led them both into a trap that didn't just strip them of their money, it stripped them of their names. Elena started screaming, a high-pitched sound of pure desperation as the handcuffs clicked onto her wrists. She had tried to out-hustle a woman who had nothing left to lose, and she had lost everything in the process. "You're going to prison, Marcus," I whispered as they led him past me, "and you won't even have the luxury of being the smartest man in the cell." He didn't answer. He couldn't. He was a shell of a man, his expensive shirt ruined, his power gone. I watched the 2 police cruisers pull away, the blue lights fading into the dawn. All the consulting fees, the gifts, and the lies were now evidence in a federal racketeering case. I stood on the lawn as the sun rose, the heat from the fire still warming my face. The developer would still buy the land, but the highway was a lie I'd told Marcus to make him panic. I was selling the land to a nonprofit for a fraction of the price to build a community center. The government settlement for my cooperation would be more than enough to start over. I tossed the rusty key in the tall grass near the smoking foundation. I didn't need the ledgers anymore. The truth was out, and the useless wife was the only one who survived the wreckage. I lost a house, but I gained a soul, and for the first time in my life, nobody was there to tell me what I was worth. I already knew. Checkmate.